Yeah, and you guys are all mentioning the talent, rightfully so. But I think what also brings all that talent together is when you have somebody in that management position who's putting them together. And you're right in pointing, to Tim Bezbachenko. You look at the amount of moves that he even made with Toronto FC. I mean, he's the now. Sometimes there were some misses there. I mean, the Jermaine Defoe, the bloody big deal, but the Josie Altidore and Bradley and Javinko and bringing in Marky Delgado and all these other pieces. There's a reason why Toronto FC went on to win in 2017, and Tim Bezbachenko was really the mastermind. And then you see what he's able to do with Columbus, and hearing everything from you guys as well, in particular when it comes to Mo Farsi. Obviously, we cover the Canadian Premier League here on One Soccer religiously. This is the home of the CPL. It's so special to see what Mo Farsi has done. You've mentioned it, going from League One to the CPL, being named the top Canadian U21 Player of the Year as well in the CPL. And now here he is, a factor with Columbus Crew. It's not like he rode the pine. I mean, this was a guy who actually played in significant games, significant minutes as well. And he's really making a name for himself in Major League Soccer. So I feel like it goes without saying he's the poster boy. But when you also look at moves that he's made, Jonathan Sirois, Lucas McNaughton, by the way, gentlemen, that's somebody else. Sean Rea, these are all players that have kind of made that leap. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Maybe I'll come to you, Jordo, for this first, having played in the CPL. Who do you think could be the next CPL player to play in MLS?
I mean, there are a few, I think, but the one that I have to name just off of the past season, just off of the fact that he played every minute, Dan Klump, I could see him playing. Again, we talked about a few shows back just about his um, PR situation as well, because if you're playing for Canadian club, but I could see him playing in the MLS for the 2024 season. Just the way that he moves, the way that he's a ball playing center back, which is coveted nowadays. Everyone wants a big frame center back who can play the ball forward. He can defend. He's strong. He has a sense for the game. And then I think also, too, he's had good training for the past 3 years, being in Calgary, being in that setup, one of the best in the Canadian Premier League under Tommy Williams Jr. I think he's ready to make that step. Also, I think in this day and age, I think when you're looking at strikers or tens or wingers, sometimes you want to look a bit further and find the sexy option. But in terms of hard-nosed positions, center back being one of them, I think sometimes you just need someone that's consistent. And Dan Klump has proven he's just that.
Mm-hmm. Who are you going with, Wheels?
I have two players that immediately come to mind. One plays a very similar style or very similar position to Mo Farsi, Zachary Fernandez.
Mm.
He's young. He's 23 years of age. This is the type of position that you want legs. You want someone that's comfortable on the ball. And I think that this is a need for a lot of MLS clubs. And this position is taking on a greater or an increased sense of importance here. And I think that he has all the tools in the box in order to make that next step. And he's young enough that I think that he'd be a player that MLS scouts would be looking at really seriously and taking to their clubs. Whether or not there's a fit, that remains to be seen. Another young player that comes to mind, I'm going a little bit, away from like the MVP candidates here, but let's go with a Forge player in Garvin Matusala. Like this guy is so underrated in terms of what he does on the field. He's become a 90-minute player for Bobby Smirniotis at only 22 years of age. He's also a Haitian international. I think he's comfortable on the ball, good defender, good profile. Again, at that age, I think that that's the type of player that an MLS club will look at and say, maybe we should take a closer look, bring him in and see if he can make that next jump. So those would be the two players that come to my mind.
Ollie?
Yeah, all good picks. I'm going to go very, very obvious because I think if Mo Farsi is anything to go by, Joel Waterman as well. What has translated really well to the next level is technical ability, a high level of mastery of the ball. These guys are excellent with the ball at their feet, and I think one player who again is not a secret by any means, but is as good at that as anyone in the league is Ollie Bassett. And what I'd add to his case for going to that next level is that he's done it now over a couple of seasons in the Canadian Premier League. I think it's, you see a lot of players who maybe have a good few months and think they can go to the next level. Bassett has been a legit player of the year contender and a player of the year winner 2 seasons in a row now. He's had 3 seasons in the CPL and played a lot of matches. He can score goals. He can create goals. He can play a number of different positions in midfields. I think the guy has everything you need to go to the next level, and we'll see what happens this offseason.
Curveball. Who do you think will be the first CPL coach, or one who did at some point coach in the CPL? Obviously, I'm talking about Pamadou Ka. I don't know. Like, who do you think could be the first coach that'll make this leap? Ollie, the camera's still on you.
I mean, there's a few like the obvious ones are Bobby Smaniotis and Tommy Wooden Jr. But
Mm.
I think for those two right now, like I think they've made their case in the CPL again. They've done it over multiple seasons. It's not just been a flash in the pan kind of thing. Bobby in particular, obviously, has so many medals and continental experience to demonstrate. It's going to be about what is the right fit for them, I think, at this point. And the last thing you want to do is take that step as a coach out of the CPL, where maybe you have a little bit of safety and security in terms of your job there, and go somewhere where you don't have the right relationship with the ownership group or with the front office, or that level of trust where you're going to get some time to work. So I think it's more about kind of what's the right opportunity for those guys more than it is, are they ready or not? I think they've shown at this point that they can have very good careers in management.
Yeah, I mean, Wheels, I do look at Bobby Spurnios only because he's also been the most vocal. I mean, obviously, Pamadou Ka has made the move. He ended up leaving
Yeah.
Pacific. He's with MLS next. I mean, this is somebody where it's clear, what path he wants to be on. But Bobby was also very vocal when he was even asked about the Canadian national team. And he said, of course, I'd love to be able to coach that. And I don't know, I'm the captain of reading too much into everything. But when Forge once again won this title, there was just the way he looked at the end of the match. And I just thought, this guy's going to cry. I'm like, something's up. Is he thinking this is the last for him here? I don't know. Right. But I just figure with all the success that he's had at the CPL level, wouldn't it also just make sense that that would be the next thing for him?
You never want to assume anything in the world of football. Things change so quick. Like just spin it back just a couple of years ago when Wilfred Nancy was part of Thierry Henry's staff. I mean, did anyone think that he could reach these heights this quickly? Like it's funny. Like I go back, he was playing in the 2005 U Sports National Championship. I'm like, did I play him at that time? I had to go back, and I was like 2 years earlier in the
That's
U
crazy.
Sports National Championship. But like, you just simply cannot project these things. I think a lot of it is circumstance, right place, right time.
Sure.
Ala Nancy and being given the opportunity to prove yourself. I'm kind of a little bit surprised maybe that hasn't come with Pamadou Ka. Because now he's made the jump. He's on an MLS bench. He seems like he's been interviewing for jobs, and he has a lot to bring to the table, a lot to offer. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was kind of the first one to get that head coaching gig. But let's just see what happens. Like, I'm not taking anything away from the resumes of those the aforementioned individuals who have done so well in the Canadian Premier League, but whether it's your agent, whether it's a professional connection, a friendly connection, whatever that bridge needs to be, it can take you to amazing places if it shows itself. So let's just see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we said it a few weeks back on OST, right? Like, who do you think could take the CF Montreal team to new heights? And Pamadou Ka for me is just a player's manager, someone to motivate a group. Of course, you can say Tommy Wilson Jr. Of course, you can say Bobby Smirnionis. But this is also me being a bit selfish, looking at the Canadian Premier League. I want to see these two Titans going at it again for 2024. Pamadou Ka has stated that MLS is where he wants to be. And honestly, from what I hear, looks like he's just ingratiated himself within every group. When he's at Charlotte, he's there in the training sessions. He's there day to day. And players love having a manager that has been playing and not so long ago. And that's who Pamadou Ka was. He's just such a strong figure on and off the pitch. So to answer your question boldly, Andy, I think that he would be probably the one that's next in line, just because where he is and what he has to offer.
Just a quick thought about the MLS Cup final, Andy, for like the path forward in this league. I think that playing within your cultural identity is just so important because this Columbus team, Cucho up top, Rossi, having players like Ramirez, you can bring up the bench. Like, there's a lot of really good talent there, but they're only 12th in MLS in terms of payroll. And essentially Columbus is looked upon as being a quote unquote small market, yet they find the best version of themselves. Morris, Nagbe, two workers, honest, hardworking players in the midfield, talented wide players. Like there's balance in that group. And I don't think that you need to overspend recklessly to go out and find what you need. You need a manager with a vision, and you need the flexibility in order to be able to do it. And LAFC has done that really well, but with some marquee players, like they're going to be going through a change. And I'm really curious to see where LAFC goes from here because Carlos Vela didn't score in the last 16 games. You know, does Bouanga move on? Like this team might go through a little bit of a rebuild, but under Cherundolo and LAFC and their staff, like I have no doubt they're going to be right back where they need to be because there's stability, there's vision, there's communication and alignment in terms of what the philosophical approach is going to be. So I thought it was a really good final. Two great clubs in Major League Soccer. I congratulate them both.
Hey, I mean, again, though, with Columbus wheels, all fingers, all roads seem to once again lead to Bezbachenko. And to your point about he's created
Yeah.
an identity and then he finds the players who fit that identity. And he has now won 3 times. Like you can't deny that this is an incredible manager and with incredible vision and how he's able to put things together. I mean, it's just
I'm not.
Tim
We're
Bezbachenko.
we're Andy or Ollie. Either of you guys in the room when Tim was first announced as general manager of Toronto FC? Like
Yeah.
I remember being in the room that day thinking they hired this guy. I
Came
was like,
from
they
the
got
league.
they
I
got
was like,
Tim
he's a
from
pencil
accounting.
pusher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I was like, really? Handpicked from the league, or with help from the league office, and he was absolutely integral in turning things around for Toronto FC. And I got so much respect. He just is such a hard worker. When you get to know him, just a real great guy as well, and just so a former player. Like he ticks all the boxes. Like he is just such an impressive individual. So don't judge a
Yeah.
book by its cover, right?
Right.
Like the guy
I
is
remember
phenomenal.
there was one early newspaper column I seem to remember that absolutely crushed him. I think he'd given reporters like a tour around some sports science facilities or something, and it basically just described him as a complete nerd. I would love to read that back now. I don't think it's
Yeah.
aged particularly well.
No, anyways, great. But just to put a bow also as well on any, leaps from the CPL to MLS especially when it comes to coaching. I mean, guys, there's no bigger opportunity. I can't remember the last time we've seen so many coaching vacancies in MLS the way we see this year between, Red Bulls and CF Montreal and Charlotte FC and DC United and Minnesota United and New England Revolution. Colorado Rapids, they've now announced Chris Armas is going to be coming on in. Portland
Columbus went
Timbers,
to Chicago.
yeah, they filled things with Phil Neville, but it's amazing the amount of positions that are still available when it comes to coaching. I could go through them more, but there's just so many.